The night sky over Seoul burned with lights that didn't belong there. Gina pressed her baby son against her chest, his small hands gripping her shirt. 6 months old, Minho didn't understand why his mother was running, why her heart was beating so fast, why tears ran down her face. He only knew something was wrong. The ship hung in the air like a massive metal insect, dark and silent, except for the blue beams that swept across the city streets. Gina's husband Daehyun grabbed her arm, pulling them both into an alley. His eyes were wide with fear, but he tried to stay calm for his family. "We have to keep moving," he whispered. "The subway station is 2 blocks away. We can hide there." But they never made it 2 blocks. The beam found them. It locked onto their position, and suddenly they couldn't move. Their bodies froze in place, held by some invisible force. Gina screamed, but no sound came out. She felt Minho being pulled from her arms, floating upward toward the ship. She fought with everything she had, but her muscles wouldn't respond. Daehyun broke free for just a moment. Scientists, both of them, they understood something about the beam's frequency. He lunged forward, reaching for his son. The aliens responded immediately. A blast of energy hit Daehyun in the chest, and he fell to the ground, smoke rising from his body. Gina's scream finally came out, raw and broken. She watched her husband die. She watched her baby float higher and higher. Then another blast came and everything went dark. Inside the ship, Minho cried. He cried for his mother's warmth, for the familiar smell of home, for the gentle songs she sang to him. But no one cared about his tears. Cold metal hands placed him in a chamber with other crying children. Most were human. Some were from other worlds. All of them were scared. The Vreks studied them through clear walls. These aliens were tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. They wore white suits and carried strange tools. They spoke in clicking sounds that hurt to hear. To them, the crying children were not babies. They were specimens. They were data. High researcher Velkara walked among the chambers, her eyes scanning the information on her screen. She was looking for something specific, something rare. The humans were promising, she thought. Young species often had surprising genetics, unrefined, chaotic, sometimes useful. They sorted the children. Some went to one section, some went to another. Minho was placed in a special group. The scanner showed something interesting in his blood, in his cells. The humans called it junk DNA, useless code left over from evolution. But Velkara saw potential. The tests began. They were not gentle. The Vreks didn't understand gentle. They stuck needles into Minho's tiny body, taking samples of everything. Blood, tissue, bone marrow. They exposed him to different chemicals, watching how his cells reacted. They caused small injuries and measured how fast he healed. They pumped his infant body full of substances that made him scream until his voice gave out. Minho's world became pain. Cold tables, bright lights, needles and cutting tools, the smell of chemicals, the sound of machines. He stopped crying eventually. Not because the pain stopped, but because he had no tears left. His small body just shook, eyes wide and empty. But something was happening inside him. Something the Vreks noticed with great interest. Minho's cells were adapting. When they introduced a poison, his body learned to fight it. When they broke his bones, they healed faster each time. His brain activity showed unusual patterns, like his mind was rewiring itself to survive the trauma. Velkara was fascinated. She increased the tests. More pain, more adaptation. She wanted to see how far the human infant could go. She pushed harder and harder, documenting everything. This was science, she told herself. This was progress. 3 months passed. Minho's body was covered in marks from injections and cuts. His eyes, once bright and curious like any baby's, had become dull. He barely moved anymore. He just lay in his chamber, staring at nothing. The Vreks held a meeting. They studied all the data from Minho and the other test subjects. Velkara presented her findings with pride. The human infant showed remarkable cellular regeneration. His neural plasticity was beyond their models. His DNA was rewriting itself in real time, activating dormant sequences they didn't even know existed. But there were problems. The subject was too young. His body was adapting, yes, but in unpredictable ways. They couldn't control it. They couldn't weaponize it. They couldn't use him for their hybrid programs. He was interesting, but not useful. Not yet. Maybe in 10 years they could try again. Maybe when he was older. The council made their decision. Experiment 73H was classified as a failure. Resources would be better spent on other subjects. The human infant would be disposed of. They didn't kill him. The Vrex weren't cruel by their standards. They simply put Minho in a stasis pod, a small metal capsule that would keep him alive in frozen sleep. Then they programmed the pod to eject into space. It would drift until it crashed somewhere. Maybe he would die. Maybe he would survive. It didn't matter to them. The pod launched from the ship, tumbling through the darkness of space. Inside, Minho slept. His small body was preserved in the cold. His growth slowed to almost nothing. He dreamed, if you could call them dreams. Nightmares of light and pain, memories of a mother's voice he could barely remember. Darkness. The Vrex ship moved on to the next star system. They had other experiments to run, other worlds to harvest. Earth was marked in their database as a potential source for future specimens. The planet had billions of humans. One missing infant meant nothing. Velkara deleted Minho's detailed records, just another failed experiment, not worth the storage space. She never thought about him again, but in the cold darkness of space, Minho's pod drifted. His body, forever changed by the torture he endured, continued to adapt even in sleep. The modifications the Vrex made didn't stop. They evolved. They grew. Inside that small metal capsule, something was happening that the Vrex never predicted. A human child, broken and discarded, was becoming something else. Something that would make them regret ever touching him. The pod drifted for years, a tiny speck in the infinite void, carrying a child who was thrown away like garbage. But garbage sometimes gets found. Sometimes it gets recycled. Sometimes it becomes something new. And sometimes, the universe has plans that even the smartest aliens can't predict. The pod tumbled through space for 2 years. Inside, Minho existed in a state between life and death. The stasis field kept him alive, but it was damaged from the ejection. Sometimes it flickered. In those moments, Minho's mind would wake just enough to feel fear, to remember pain, before slipping back into darkness. His body aged slowly. A 6-month-old baby became a 2-year-old child in frozen sleep. But the changes the Vrex made to him didn't sleep. They continued working, rewriting his genetic code, preparing him for survival in ways no one could predict. The pod finally fell from the sky on a world the galaxy had forgotten. Draknor Prime existed inside a thick nebula, hidden from normal sensors. The planet was covered in volcanoes and crystal forests, with purple skies and rivers of liquid metal. It was beautiful and deadly, and it was home to the Draken. The Draken were legends. Most species thought they were myths. Ancient stories spoke of dragon-like beings who once ruled a vast empire, then vanished. The truth was simpler. They still existed. They just chose to leave the galaxy's politics behind. They watched from their hidden world, disgusted by what they saw. Empires built on conquest. Species enslaved. The weak exploited by the strong. Elder Seogen was hunting crystal stags in the northern mountains when he saw the pod fall. It screamed through the purple sky, trailing fire. It crashed into a frozen lake with a sound like thunder. Seogen spread his massive wings and flew toward the crash site. He was impressive to see. 20 feet tall when standing upright, covered in dark red scales that shimmered like metal. 2 curved horns grew from his head, and his eyes glowed like coals. Powerful wings kept him in the air with slow, heavy beats. He looked like the dragons from Earth's old stories, but he was so much more. He was ancient, wise, and deadly. The ice around the pod was melting from the heat of re-entry. Seojun used his claws to pry it open. The metal resisted, but he was strong. When it finally opened, he froze. Inside was a child. A small, scarred child with pale skin and dark hair. The child's body was covered in marks, injection sites, surgical cuts, burns. Seojin had seen these marks before, years ago, on another victim. He knew what they meant. The Vrex had done this. Rage filled Seojin's chest, and smoke rose from his nostrils. He wanted to destroy something. But the child was still alive, barely breathing. Anger could wait. He carefully lifted the small body, cradling it against his chest. His scales were hot, but he controlled his temperature, making sure not to burn the fragile creature. He flew back to his clan's stronghold, a massive city carved into a volcanic mountain. Other Draken saw him coming and called out in their rumbling language. Seojin shouted for Yuna, their healer. Yuna was smaller than Seojin, her scales a lighter shade of gold. She had kind eyes but a sharp mind. When she saw the child, her expression turned dark. She took Minho from Seojin and rushed him to her healing chamber. For 3 days, Yuna worked to save the child's life. She used Draken medicine, ancient techniques passed down for thousands of years. She mixed crystals from their planet with healing herbs. She sang songs in the old language, melodies that encouraged the body to heal. Slowly, the child stabilized. But when she examined him closely, she found something shocking. The child's body was healing on its own, faster than it should. His cells were regenerating at an incredible rate. The scars on his body were fading. His bones, which had been broken and healed wrong, were breaking themselves and setting correctly. It was like his body knew what it was supposed to be and was fighting to return to that state. Yuna brought her findings to the council. The Draken leaders gathered in the Great Hall, a cavern lit by glowing crystals. Archon Taeyang sat at the head, the oldest and wisest of them all. His scales were silver with age, and his eyes had seen millennia pass. Seojin stood before the council, the child wrapped in warm cloth in his arms. "This is a human child," he said, his voice deep and strong. "The Vrex took him. They tortured him. They threw him away. I asked the council to grant him sanctuary." There was debate. Some council members argued that the child should be returned to his people. Earth was far away, but they could make the journey. Others worried about getting involved with the wider galaxy. They had isolated themselves for a reason. But Taeyang studied the sleeping child with his ancient eyes. He saw something others didn't. "This child was meant to die," he said quietly. But he lived. The universe rarely makes mistakes. Perhaps there is a reason he fell from the sky onto our world. One council member, a warrior named Bora, spoke up. "What can we offer a human child? Our ways are not gentle. We train our young in fire and blood. This creature is soft, weak. He won't survive." Seojun's eyes blazed. "Then we make him strong. The Vrex saw him as nothing. Let us show them what nothing can become." Yuna added her voice. "His body is already changing. The torture he endured awakened something in his genetics. With our training, our medicine, our knowledge, he could become something extraordinary." Taeyang nodded slowly. "Very well. The child stays. Seojin, you found him? He is your responsibility. Raise him as Draken. Teach him our ways. If he survives, he earns his place among us. If he fails, we will honor him and send his body home." And so it was decided. The human child would be raised by dragons. Minho woke up 3 weeks later. He was in a strange room carved from red stone. Strange symbols glowed on the walls. He could feel heat coming from somewhere below. Everything smelled like sulfur and something else, something alive. He tried to sit up and found he could. The pain that had been his constant companion was gone. He looked down at his small hands. The needle marks were fading. He touched his chest where the worst scars had been. They were almost invisible now. A shadow fell over him. Minho looked up and screamed. A massive creature stood in the doorway. Red scales, glowing eyes, horns and claws. It was a monster from nightmares. Minho scrambled backward, falling off the bed, pressing himself against the wall. Seojin knelt down, making himself smaller. He spoke in the human language, learned from old database. His voice was rough, the words strange in his mouth. "No fear, no hurt. Safe now." But Minho didn't understand safety. He only knew fear and pain. He stayed pressed against the wall, shaking. Seojin tried again. He reached out slowly with one clawed hand, palm up, an offering, a peaceful gesture. Safe, he repeated. Family now. It took days before Minho stopped being afraid. Weeks before he understood where he was. Months before he smiled for the first time. But slowly, in a city of dragons, surrounded by beings that could kill him with a breath, the broken human child began to heal. Not just his body, his spirit. For the first time since the cold metal table, someone treated him with kindness. The Draken didn't see him as an experiment. They saw him as one of their own. Minho didn't know it yet, but he had found something more valuable than safety. He had found family. And family, the Draken believed, was worth dying for. 10 years changed everything. The small, scarred child who arrived in a broken pod was gone. In his place stood a young man named Minho, 16 years old, lean and strong. His body was covered in new scars now, but these were different. These were earned through training, through pushing himself beyond every limit. These were marks of a warrior. The training had been brutal from the beginning. The Draken didn't believe in gentle teaching. Their young learned by doing, by failing, by getting back up. Seojin applied the same methods to Minho, even though he was human. When Minho was 5, Seojin woke him before sunrise and told him to climb the volcanic mountain behind their stronghold. Minho cried that it was too high, too steep. Seojin simply said, "Then you will learn to climb." When Minho was 7, he trained with wooden weapons against Draken children. They were stronger than him, faster, with natural armor. They broke his bones regularly. Yuna healed him, and Seojin sent him back to fight. "Pain is a teacher," Seojin said. "Listen to what it tells you." When Minho was 10, Seojin threw him into a crystal forest filled with predators. He had to survive for 3 days with nothing but a knife. When Minho returned, bleeding and exhausted, Seojin nodded with approval. It was the closest thing to praise Minho ever received, but something remarkable was happening. Minho's body adapted to everything. The Vrex experiments had changed his genetics in ways even Yuna didn't fully understand. Every challenge made him stronger. Every injury healed faster than the last. His muscles grew dense and powerful. His reflexes became lightning quick. His senses sharpened until he could hear a heartbeat from across a room. By age 12, Minho could keep up with Draken children his age in combat. By 14, he was beating them. By 16, even adult Draken warriors treated him with respect. Seojin taught him the Draken combat style, a method designed for beings with wings and scales. It focused on brutal efficiency, using every advantage. Draken fought in 3 dimensions, diving from above, using their tails as weapons, breathing fire at close range. Minho had none of these natural advantages, so he learned to create his own. He studied how the Draken moved and adapted it for a human body. Where they used wings for momentum, he used speed and rolls. Where they used their thick scales for defense, he learned to dodge and deflect. Where they breathed fire, he learned to use technology. Yuna taught him to work with Draken crystals, special minerals from their world that could store and release energy. Minho forged armor from shed Draken scales and crystal fragments. It was lighter than the full plate the Draken wore, but stronger than anything humans had. He built gauntlets that could channel heat, creating bursts of flame. Not true Draken fire, but close enough. He also learned their history, their philosophy. The Draken believed in honor and strength. They believed the strong had a duty to protect the weak, not exploit them. They despised the Vrex and species like them who treated life as a resource to be harvested. But Minho struggled with his identity. He looked around and saw beings with scales and wings, fire and claws. He saw family. But when he looked in a mirror, he saw a human. A species he knew nothing about except that they had been weak enough to be raided, and he had been disposable enough to be thrown away. Hana didn't let him wallow in self-pity. She was Seojin's daughter, born the same year Minho arrived. They grew up together, trained together, competed constantly. She had her father's red scales and her mother's fierce spirit. She was also Minho's best friend and harshest critic. "Stop feeling sorry for yourself," she told him one day after training. They sat on a cliff overlooking a lava flow, both bruised and tired. "You think being human makes you weak?" "I don't have wings," Minho said. "I can't breathe fire. My scales are fake. I'm pretending to be something I'm not." Hana snorted smoke from her nostrils. "You're an idiot. You beat me in sparring yesterday, me, a full-blooded Draken. You did that without wings or natural fire. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you dangerous." She was right, but Minho didn't feel dangerous. He felt lost. He remembered nothing before the pain. His first memory was a cold table and bright lights. His second memory was waking up surrounded by monsters. Everything else he learned from books and stories. Earth was just a name. Humanity was just a species classification. Everything changed on his 16th birthday. The Draken had a ritual for young warriors. They called it the Trial of Fire. Each warrior had to face their greatest fear alone, in the deep volcanic caves beneath the mountain. No weapons, no help, just themselves and whatever nightmares waited in the dark. Minho descended into the caves as the sun set. The heat increased with every step. The air became thick and hard to breathe. He went deeper than any human should survive. The caves were lit by cracks in the stone where lava glowed beneath. He found his fear waiting for him in a vast chamber. Not a physical monster. Something worse. A hallucination brought on by volcanic gases in his own mind. He saw the white room, the metal table, the needles, the lights. He heard the clicking language of the Vrex. He felt the pain again, fresh and real as the day it happened. He was 6 months old again, helpless, screaming, nobody coming to save him. Minho fell to his knees. His heart raced. His breath came in gasps. The memories crushed him. He wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. He wanted to fight, but you couldn't fight your own mind. Then something inside him broke. Or maybe it awakened. His body responded to the extreme stress the same way it had on that metal table all those years ago. His genetics activated. The modifications the Vrex made, dormant for so long, exploded into full expression. His vision sharpened until he could see in almost complete darkness. His muscles flooded with strength beyond normal human limits. His heart rate slowed, becoming controlled and powerful. His mind cleared, thoughts moving faster than before. Most importantly, his fear vanished. Not because he stopped being afraid, but because he learned to use it. He stood up. The hallucination was still there. The white room, the pain. But now he saw it differently. That helpless baby was gone. The Vrex made him stronger, trying to break him. Seojin made him a warrior by refusing to let him quit. Hana made him family by treating him as an equal. He walked through the hallucination. It tried to hold him. It couldn't. He climbed out of the caves as the sun rose, covered in ash and sweat, but his eyes were different, clearer. Sure. Seojin waited at the entrance. He saw the change immediately. "You found it," he said simply. "Found what?" "The thing inside you that refuses to die." The entire clan gathered that evening. Archon Taeyang stood before them all, ancient and wise. Minho knelt before him, and Taeyang placed a clawed hand on his head. "You came to us broken," Taeyang said in the rumbling Draken language that Minho now understood perfectly. "Thrown away like trash, but you rose from the ashes of your suffering. Today, you are Draken. Today, you are family. I name you Ashborn. The one who should have died but chose to live." The clan roared their approval, breathing fire into the sky. Hana was the loudest, her flames bright gold. That night, Minho sat with Seojin, looking at the stars. "What am I?" Minho asked. "Human? Draken? Something else?" Seojin was quiet for a long time. "You are what you choose to be. Your genetics are human. Your spirit is Draken. Your experience is yours alone. Perhaps that is enough. Is it? We will see." They didn't know that soon, very soon, the universe would test that question in ways none of them expected. 6 years of peace ended in an instant. Minho was 22 now, a full warrior of the Draken clan. He spent his days training younger warriors, maintaining his equipment, and exploring the volcanic wilderness of Draknor Prime. Life was simple. Hard, but simple. He had found a place where he belonged. Then the alarms sounded. The Draken defense grid detected a ship entering the nebula. It was small, moving cautiously, scanning everything. The signature was immediately recognized. Vrex. Seojin found Minho in the training grounds. "Come with me, now." They flew to the council chambers where Archon Taeyong was already studying sensor data. The ship had landed in the northern wastes, far from the main city. A small team had deployed and was moving across the terrain. "Why are they here?" Bora demanded. "We've been hidden for centuries." Yuna pulled up old data, her clawed fingers moving across crystalline controls. "I still have the pod we found Minho in. I kept it for study. The stasis system has been transmitting a weak distress signal all this time. I never thought to disable it. The signal is so faint it wouldn't be detected outside the nebula. But something inside the nebula could find it," Taeyang said grimly. Seojin turned to Minho. "They're tracking you." Minho felt cold despite the volcanic heat. After 22 years, his past had found him. The Vrex who threw him away were back. "What do they want?" he asked. "To finish their research," Yuna said, "or to recapture a valuable specimen. You survived what they did to you and thrived. They'll want to know how." Taeyang stood. "We will not allow them to take anyone from our world. Seojin, take a warrior team. Capture or eliminate the Vrex. I want answers." Minho stepped forward. "I'm going with them." "No," Seojin said immediately. "They came for me. I deserve to face them." Seojin and Minho locked eyes. The elder Draken saw something in his adopted son's face. Not fear, not revenge. Something colder. Determination. Finally, Seojin nodded. They flew north under the purple sky, 6 Draken warriors and 1 human who moved like a dragon. Minho wore his scale armor and carried weapons forged in Draken fire. His heart was steady. His mind was clear. He had trained his entire life for combat. Now he would test himself against the species that created him. They found the Vrex team in a crystalline canyon. There were 8 of them, wearing environmental suits and carrying scanning equipment. Their leader was studying a device that showed a bright signal. The pod's beacon. They were following it back to the city. Seojin gave the signal. The Draken dropped from the sky like falling stars. The Vrex never had a chance. These weren't helpless civilians or primitive species. These were warrior dragons who had perfected combat over thousands of years. The Vrex tried to use their weapons, but Draken scales turned aside their energy blasts. They tried to run, but Draken could fly. In less than a minute, 7 Vrex were dead or dying. 1 remained. The captain, Ilkstar. Seojin had him pinned under 1 massive claw. "Speak," Seojin rumbled. "Why are you here?" Ilkstar's translator gave his words a mechanical sound. "Tracking. Experiment. Old signal. Routine investigation." "What experiment?" Seojin pressed harder. Bones cracked. "Human. Child. Experiment 73H. Disposed of. Years ago. Signal active. Impossible. Must investigate." Minho stepped forward, removing his helmet. Ilkstar's large black eyes widened in his gray face. "Hello," Minho said in the Vrex language, learned from Yuna's database. "I'm Experiment 73H, but you can call me Minho." Ilkstar made a choking sound. "Impossible. You were infant. Should be dead. But I'm not dead. I'm here. I survived everything you did to me, and I became something you never expected." Minho leaned closer. "I became strong. You're just one specimen. The data. We need the data." Minho smiled without humor. "You're not getting data. You're getting a message." Ilkstar suddenly moved, faster than expected. His hand went to his suit's emergency transmitter. Seojin tried to stop him, but he was too slow. The signal went out, a powerful burst that cut through the nebula into deep space. The message was simple. Human experiment alive. Significant development. Valuable specimen. Hostile environment. Send support. Seojin crushed Ilkstar. But the damage was done. The message was sent. The Vrex would come in force now. Back in the council chambers, the mood was dark. Taeyang studied the intercepted message. They will send warships, dozens of them. They will not risk losing this valuable specimen again. Let them come, Bora growled. We've hidden long enough. Time to remind the galaxy that the Draken are not extinct. But Minho was thinking, the Vrex wouldn't just come for him. They would come for the Draken too. A hidden civilization of warrior dragons? That was data they'd want. And if the Draken fought back, if they revealed themselves, every species in the galaxy would want to know about them. The isolation Taeyang had carefully maintained would end. This is my fault, Minho said. They came for me. They'll bring more because of me. I won't let you suffer for saving my life. You are clan, Seojin said firmly. We protect our own. Then let me protect you. Minho turned to Yuna. You have star charts, old ones, from before the Draken went into hiding. Show me where Earth is. Understanding dawned on faces around the room. Taeyang leaned forward. You want to warn your birth species. The Vrex have been to Earth before. That's where they took me. If they're willing to send warships here, they'll send them there too. Humans have a right to know what's coming. You remember nothing of Earth, Seojin said. No, but it's where I'm from. And if the Vrex are this interested in me, they're interested in humanity. I can't let them do to other humans what they did to me. Hana, who had been silent until now, spoke up. I'll go with him. Absolutely not, Seojun started. He needs a pilot. He's terrible at flying ships. She grinned, showing her fangs. Besides, someone needs to keep him alive. Taeyang considered for a long moment. Very well. Minho, Hana, you will go to Earth. Warn them. Help them prepare. We will fortify here and wait for the Vrex fleet. When they come, they will find the Draken ready for war. Preparations moved quickly. Yuna gave Minho all the data about Vrex technology she had collected over the years. She also gave him samples of his own blood, his genetic code, proof of what the Vrex had done. Seojin gave him a Draken blade, folded metal from the volcanic heart of their world. You have been my son in all ways that matter, Seojin said as they prepared to leave. Go, do what you must, but remember, you have a home here. Always. Minho embraced his adopted father, feeling the heat of his scales. I'll come back, I promise. The ship they took was a Draken stealth vessel, designed to move unseen. Hana piloted while Minho studied everything about Earth he could find. It wasn't much. A small blue planet. 4 billion humans. Recently developed space travel. No unified government. Completely unprepared for what was coming. As they left the nebula behind, Hana looked at him. Are you scared? Terrified, Minho admitted. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. She adjusted their course toward the distant star that warmed Earth. Let's go save your species. Behind them, Drakner Prime prepared for war. Ahead of them, Earth waited, unaware that one of its lost children was coming home, bringing a warning and a storm. Earth's defense satellites detected the ship 3 days before it arrived. An unknown vessel, non-human design, approaching at high speed. Every military base went on alert. Weapons charged. Fighters launched. Humanity had met alien species before, traders mostly, but they remained cautious. The memory of the raids 20 years ago still haunted the collective consciousness. The Draken ship stopped just outside weapons range. Then it broadcast a message on every frequency, in perfect human language. My name is Minho. I am human. I was taken from Seoul 22 years ago as an infant. I survived. And I've come to warn you. The species that took me is coming back. You need to prepare. Please, let me land. The message caused chaos. News spread across the globe in minutes. The boy who was taken had returned. Military commanders debated. Politicians argued. But one man made the decision. Commander Jinwoo of the United Earth Defense Force pulled up old records, the Seoul raids, the missing people. Among them, a 6-month-old boy named Minho, son of scientists Gina and Daehyun. Both parents killed, child presumed dead. Jinwoo looked at the genetic markers in the file, then at his own. Distant cousins. Family he never knew. Let him land, Jinwoo ordered. But keep weapons ready. The ship touched down at a military base outside Seoul. Hundreds of soldiers surrounded it, weapons raised. The door opened and 2 figures emerged. The first was clearly not human. She was massive, covered in golden scales, with wings folded against her back and horns that caught the sunlight. Soldiers gasped, some prayed, others just stared. A dragon. A real dragon. The second figure was human. Young man, early 20s, dressed in armor that looked like it was made from dragon scales. Dark hair, Korean features, eyes that had seen too much. He walked with the confidence of a warrior but stopped well away from the soldiers, hands visible and empty. I'm Minho, he said. I'm from here, from Seoul. I was taken when I was a baby. I'm back because you're in danger. Jinwoo stepped forward. I'm Commander Jinwoo. I've read your file. Your parents. I'm sorry. Minho nodded. I don't remember them, but I remember the ones who took me. They're called the Vreks. They're coming here with warships. They want to harvest humans for experiments. I know because I was one of those experiments. He removed his armor piece by piece, showing the faded scars on his body. Injection marks. Surgical lines, evidence of torture, the soldiers murmured. Cameras caught everything. Within the hour, the world was watching. Minho told them everything. The Vreks Collective, their experiments, how they threw him away, how the Draken found him and raised him, how the Vreks discovered he survived and sent scouts, how those scouts were eliminated, and how a message got out before they died. They're coming, Minho said. Not just for me, for all of you. Humans have something they want. Adaptive genetics, regenerative potential. They'll take thousands of you if they can, and they won't ask permission. The world leaders held an emergency meeting. Some wanted to negotiate, others wanted to fight. Minho addressed them through video link, Hana standing behind him like a golden statue. You can't negotiate with the Vreks, Minho said. They don't see you as people. They see you as resources. The only language they understand is strength. You need to be ready to fight. 1 human and 1 dragon against a fleet? Someone asked skeptically. Hana laughed, a sound like grinding stones. Not 1 dragon, the Draken are coming. My people are preparing for war. The question is, will yours? Earth had 3 weeks before the Vreks fleet arrived. 3 weeks to prepare for a war they never wanted. Minho didn't waste a second. He trained soldiers, teaching them Draken combat techniques adapted for humans. Close quarters, fast strikes. Use your size advantage. Humans were smaller than most species. That made them harder to hit. He taught them to think like predators, not prey. He worked with engineers, sharing Draken technology. Crystal-based shields that could absorb energy weapons. Alloy formulas that made armor lighter and stronger. New propulsion designs for fighters. Earth's technology jumped forward years and weeks. Most importantly, he shared intelligence about Vreks' weaknesses. They relied on predictable tactics. Their algorithms expected fear-based responses. But humans didn't follow algorithms. Humans got creative when cornered. Humans got angry. Jinwoo became Minho's primary contact. They spent hours going over battle plans. Despite the genetic distance, they found they thought alike. Quick decisions, aggressive tactics, protect the innocent at all costs. Tell me about the Draken, Jinwoo asked one night. They're warriors, honorable. They believe strength should protect the weak, not exploit them. They saved me when I was nothing, made me family, gave me purpose. Minho looked at the stars. Everything I am, I owe to them. And now you're here, protecting the species that couldn't protect you. I'm protecting everyone, humans, Draken, Anyone the Vrex would hurt? That's what family does. The Vrex fleet arrived exactly when predicted. 12 massive warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Each ship carried thousands of soldiers, hundreds of weapons, technology centuries ahead of Earth's. They expected easy victory. They found something else. Earth's defense fleet met them. Hundreds of ships, upgraded with Draken technology, piloted by humans who refused to surrender. The first volley of missiles surprised the Vrex. Humans were supposed to be primitive. These weapons were sophisticated. Then space tore open behind the Vrex fleet. Slipspace, portals, Draken technology. Through them came 30 Dragon ships, massive vessels covered in scales and breathing fire from their engines. Seojin's voice boomed across all channels, translated into every language. You harmed one under our protection. You threaten a species we call friends. You will answer for your crimes. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Vrex ships had superior shields and weapons, but they faced an alliance they never expected. Humans fought with desperate courage, throwing everything they had at ships that outmatched them. Draken fought with ancient fury, their ships designed for ramming and close combat. Together, they were devastating. Minho led boarding parties onto Vrex command ships. He moved through their corridors like death, his Draken training making him faster and stronger than the Vrex expected. Human soldiers followed him, inspired by his fearlessness. They sabotaged weapons. They captured key personnel. They turned the Vrex's own technology against them. Hana flew air support, her personal fighter dancing between giant warships, providing cover for human pilots. She saved dozens of lives, pulling damaged fighters out of danger, her voice constantly encouraging them. Keep fighting. Show them what dragons do to bullies. The battle raged for 18 hours. Ships burned. Lives were lost. But slowly, impossibly, the Alliance was winning. Vrex ships began to retreat, trying to escape. But Taeyang had planned for this. Draken ships blocked the escape routes. The Vrex were trapped. The Vrex High Command, watching from their flagship, finally understood. They had made a terrible mistake. The human they threw away had become their worst nightmare. Not because he was strong, but because he built bridges. He united species. He turned victims into warriors. Minho breached the flagship's bridge with Jinwoo and a team of human soldiers. Inside, they found Velkara, the high researcher who had tortured him as an infant. She was older now, but Minho recognized her from Yuna's database. She looked at him with those large black eyes, and for the first time, showed emotion. Fear. You were nothing, she whispered. Failed experiment. Minho removed his helmet. You were right. I was nothing. A helpless baby. But you know what? Being nothing meant I could become anything. You made me a survivor. Seojin made me a warrior. And now I'm the one who ended your empire's expansion. You're just one human. No. Minho gestured to the soldiers behind him. To the Draken ships outside. To Earth, visible through the viewport. I'm not one anything. I'm human and Draken. I'm experiment and warrior. I'm victim and victor. I'm proof that family isn't about genetics. It's about who stands with you. The Vrex fleet surrendered. Survivors were taken into custody. Evidence of their experiments on dozens of species was seized. The Galactic Council, which had ignored Vrex crimes for decades, was forced to act. Sanctions, trials, justice. In the aftermath, Earth and Draknor Prime signed a formal alliance. The Draken ended their isolation, but on their terms. They would engage with the galaxy, but as equals, not victims. Minho became the ambassador, living between both worlds. He established an academy where humans and Draken trained together, sharing knowledge, building understanding, creating a generation that saw beyond species. Months later, Minho stood at a memorial in Seoul. It marked the spot where his parents died, where he was taken. Jinwoo had helped build it. Names of all the victims were carved into black stone. Hana landed beside him, her massive form somehow gentle. "Do you wish you could remember them?" she asked. "Sometimes, but I had parents. Seojin and Yuna raised me, loved me, made me who I am." "And who are you, Minho?" It was the old question between them. He smiled, watching human and Draken children training together in the distance. "I'm someone who was thrown away and found by the best family in the galaxy. I'm someone who turned pain into purpose. I'm proof that the universe makes fewer mistakes than we think." He looked up at the sky where two stars shined, Earth and Draknor Prime, connected now by more than treaty, connected by sacrifice, by courage, by love. "I'm home," Minho said simply. "Finally, I'm home." And across the galaxy, species that had suffered under the Vrex, that had been told they were inferior, heard the story of a human baby who was tortured and discarded, then raised by dragons to become a warrior who changed everything. They heard, and they found hope. If one thrown-away child could unite worlds, what could they become? The answer was anything. Absolutely anything.